Cruise ships waste more of your vacation time than almost anything else, and most cruisers never realize it until the trip is already half over. Every year, thousands of travelers lose entire days of their cruise standing in lines, chasing pool chairs, or repeating small mistakes that quietly steal hours from a vacation they saved up for and paid thousands of dollars to enjoy. After talking with cabin stewards, cruise directors, and dozens of repeat cruisers, I put together the 13 biggest time wasters that drain a cruise without people even noticing. Number 7 is the one that costs cruisers almost an entire afternoon, and number 1 is the mistake nearly everyone makes on the very last day of the trip. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to protect every single hour of your cruise, starting with the very first morning on board. Before we count these down, if this kind of practical cruise advice is useful to you, hit subscribe here on Senior Cruise Secrets, because the small habits in this video add up to entire extra days of vacation, and I share tips like this every single week. Number 13. Waiting too long to reserve shows, activities, and fitness classes. Here is what most cruisers do not realize. The second the ship's app goes live, the best time slots start disappearing within hours. A couple from Ohio boarded expecting to book the headline show for that evening, but by the time they opened the app after unpacking, every slot was full except the last showing at 11 at night. The reason is simple. Cruise lines release a limited number of seats per performance, and popular activities like the ropes course, cooking classes, and fitness sessions fill up just as fast. Here is what you do. Download the cruise app before you even board the ship, and reserve your top 3 shows and activities the moment reservations open, which is usually right when embarkation begins. Do the same for fitness classes and specialty workshops, since those spots vanish within the first few hours. Insider move: set a reminder on your phone for the exact time bookings open, because seconds matter here. Rule of thumb: if you wait until after dinner to book anything, you are choosing from whatever is left over. This one habit alone can save you from losing an entire evening chasing a seat that was gone before you ever looked. It also removes the stress of constantly refreshing the app later in the week, since your calendar is already set the moment you step on board. Number 12. Overpacking and spending too much time unpacking your cabin. Here is the trap almost every cruiser falls into. More luggage feels like more comfort, but it actually steals hours from your first day. A woman from Texas packed 6 full outfits per day for a 7-night cruise and spent nearly 3 hours unpacking, folding, and finding space for everything, time she could have spent exploring the ship or relaxing on the pool deck. The reason this happens is simple. Cabins are small, storage is limited, and every extra bag means more decisions and more time spent organizing instead of enjoying the trip. Here's what you do. Pack half of what you think you need. Choose clothing that mixes and matches, and use packing cubes so everything has a designated spot before you even board. Unpack only the essentials on day 1 and leave the rest zipped until you actually need it. Insider move: use the closet and drawers for daily items only, and leave bulk items in the suitcase under the bed. Rule of thumb: if you cannot unpack in under 30 minutes, you pack too much, and that extra time is time you will never get back on a short cruise. Number 11. Going to guest services during the embarkation day rush. Here is what nobody tells new cruisers. The first 2 hours after boarding are the single busiest window for guest services on the entire trip. A traveler from Florida wanted to correct a dining time mistake and walked straight to guest services right after boarding, only to wait in a line that wrapped around the atrium for over an hour. The reason is straightforward. Everyone boards around the same time, and everyone tries to fix small issues immediately, which floods the desk all at once. Here is what you do. Use the ship's app or a phone call to guest services for simple requests instead of standing in line, and save in-person visits for problems the app genuinely cannot solve. If you must go in person, go either right when the ship departs or later that evening when the crowd has thinned out completely. Insider move: many issues like dining time changes or cabin questions can be solved through the app chat feature in minutes. Rule of thumb: the first afternoon on board is the worst possible time to stand in any line, so avoid it whenever you can. Number 10. Returning to your cabin repeatedly because you forgot essentials. Here is the pattern that wastes more time than people expect. Every trip back to the cabin for a forgotten item costs 15 to 20 minutes round trip once you factor in hallways, elevators, and the walk itself. A retired teacher from Ohio forgot sunscreen, then her sunglasses, then her room key, and ended up spending nearly an hour of her first sea day just walking back and forth. The reason this keeps happening is that cabins are packed away quickly and unfamiliar, so small items get left behind without anyone noticing until they are already out on deck. Here is what you do. Build a simple daily bag the night before with sunscreen, your room key, sunglasses, a water bottle, and any medication you need for the day, and keep it by the door. Check the bag before you leave each morning instead of trusting your memory. Insider move, use a small hook by the cabin door specifically for this bag, so it becomes an automatic habit within a day or two. Rule of thumb, one missing item found early saves you an entire wasted trip later. Multiply that 15-minute round trip by 3 or 4 times a day, and it becomes obvious how much of your actual vacation was spent walking hallways instead of enjoying the ship. Number 9. Arriving in port without a sightseeing or excursion plan. Here is what catches so many cruisers off guard. Ports are only available for a handful of hours, sometimes as few as 5, and every minute spent deciding what to do is a minute you will not get back. A young couple from Chicago got off the ship in a beautiful port with no plan at all. Spent 45 minutes just walking around trying to decide what to see, and ended up seeing barely half of what the port actually offered. The reason is simple. Without research done in advance, decision-making eats into your limited port time immediately. Here is what you do. Research your ports at least a few days before the cruise, and write down 2 or 3 specific things you want to see or do in each one, along with roughly how long each will take. You do not need a rigid schedule, just a clear starting point. Insider move. Save a short list of top attractions and their walking distance from the port directly on your phone before the cruise begins. Rule of thumb, a loose plan beats no plan every single time, especially when the ship leaves without you at a fixed hour. Even a short list, scribbled the night before, turns a confusing few hours on land into a smooth, confident walk, straight to the places you actually wanted to see. Number 8. Sleeping through most of the sea day instead of planning activities. Here is the surprising trap. Sea days feel unstructured, so a lot of cruisers treat them as a day to simply sleep in late and drift through without a plan, and end up missing the very things they were excited about. A man from Georgia slept until almost noon on his only sea day and realized afterward that the trivia contest, the pool games, and the best sunset viewing spot had already come and gone. The reason this happens is that sea days genuinely have no ports, so there is a false sense that there is unlimited time, when in reality the best activities are scheduled and limited. Here is what you do. Check the daily schedule the night before and pick 2 or 3 activities you actually want to attend. Then set an alarm that gives you enough time to get ready. Treat a sea day like a flexible itinerary, not an empty one. Insider move. Sea days are also when spas and specialty restaurants are least busy, so this is the ideal time to book those without a wait. Rule of thumb, a sea day with no plan quietly becomes a day you cannot get back. We are halfway through this list, and if you are already thinking about your next cruise while watching this, drop the name of your next ship in the comments. I read every single one, and it helps me know which ships to research for future videos on this channel. Number 7. Eating at the buffet during peak meal times. Here is what almost costs cruisers an entire afternoon. The buffet gets slammed at the exact same windows every single day, typically between noon and 1 in the afternoon, and again around 6 in the evening. A family from Michigan walked into the buffet right at noon on a sea day and spent nearly 45 minutes just finding a table, on top of another 20 minutes waiting in the food lines themselves. The reason is simple. Everyone on the ship eats around the same schedule, so the busiest hour for you is the busiest hour for thousands of other guests at once. Here is what you do. Eat either right when the buffet opens or about an hour after the traditional lunch and dinner rush, when the lines are noticeably shorter and tables are easy to find. Here is what you do. Use the app to check if a specialty restaurant with no extra charge is less crowded that day. Insider move. Ask a crew member which section of the buffet just opened a fresh station, since that area usually has the shortest line. Rule of thumb, shifting your mealtime by even 30 minutes can save you close to an hour of standing around. Number 6. spending hours searching for the perfect pool chair. Here is the daily ritual that wastes more vacation time than people realize. Chasing down a pool chair, especially one with shade, can eat up 30 minutes or more before you even sit down. A retired couple from Arizona walked the entire pool deck twice looking for two chairs together in the shade, and by the time they found a spot, half the morning was gone. The reason is straightforward. Everyone wants the same handful of shaded, well-positioned chairs, and they fill up within the first hour the pool deck opens. Here is what you do. Head up to the pool deck within the first 30 minutes it opens if a good spot matters to you, or alternatively go up during meal times when many chairs are briefly empty. Here is what you do. Consider the adults-only deck or a quieter deck section, since those areas almost always have open seating with far less competition. Insider move. Bring a small clip-on fan or a light towel so you are comfortable claiming a spot for a short window while you go get coffee or breakfast. Rule of thumb, the earlier you show up, the less time you spend circling the deck like a shark looking for a seat. And once you do have a spot, leaving a towel or a book on the chair while you grab food is usually enough to hold it. So you are not starting the search over from scratch every single time. Number 5. Getting lost on the cruise ship because you never learned the layout. Here is what nobody tells first-time cruisers. These ships can stretch longer than 3 football fields, and getting turned around costs real time every single day, not just once. A first-time cruiser from Nevada spent nearly 20 minutes trying to find her own cabin after dinner on the first night, walking in circles on the wrong deck entirely. The reason this happens is that every hallway and stairwell can look almost identical, and the ship's layout is genuinely confusing until you have walked it a few times. Here is what you do. Spend the first 30 minutes on board doing a simple walkthrough of your deck, the closest stairwell, and the fastest route to the main dining room and pool deck. Save a screenshot of the deck map on your phone so you always have it, even without Wi-Fi. An insider move, note your cabin number and deck using a nearby landmark, like being close to a specific stairwell or elevator bank, since doors all tend to look the same. Rule of thumb, 10 minutes of orientation on day 1 saves you from wasting time lost in hallways for the rest of the week. Number 4. Shopping aimlessly in every port without a plan. Here's the trap that eats up port time fast, wandering into shop after shop with no real intention just to browse, only to realize an hour has passed and the actual sightseeing time is now gone. A couple from Pennsylvania spent almost their entire port day drifting between souvenir shops near the pier and never made it to the historic site they had actually wanted to see. The reason this happens is that shops near the port are designed to pull cruisers in immediately, and browsing without a goal naturally expands to fill whatever time you give it. Here is what you do. Decide in advance whether shopping is even a priority for that particular port, and if it is, set aside a specific window, like the last 30 minutes before returning to the ship. Here is what you do. Look up local shops in advance if there is something specific you want, so you are not wandering blindly. Insider move, prices near the pier are almost always higher, so if you do want to shop, walking a few blocks further usually gets you better prices and fewer crowds. Rule of thumb. Shopping should be the reward at the end of your port time, not the thing that replaces it. Number 3. Booking a hotel far from the cruise port before or after you're sailing. Here is a mistake that can cost you hours you never planned for. A hotel that looks like a great deal can end up 30 or 40 minutes from the port, and that gap becomes stressful on both ends of the trip. A family from New York booked a hotel that was technically in the same city as the port, but the traffic on embarkation morning turned a short trip into an hour-and-a-half ordeal, and they boarded the ship with barely any time to explore before departure. The reason this happens is that hotel prices drop the further you get from the port, but the hidden cost is the time and stress of travel on a day that already has a fixed departure time. Here is what you do. Choose a hotel within a short walk or a quick ride share of the port whenever your budget allows, especially the night before embarkation. Here is what you do. If you must stay further away, build in an extra hour of buffer time beyond what any map estimates, since port traffic on embarkation morning is rarely normal. Insider move. Many port cities have hotels that offer luggage storage and shuttle service specifically for cruisers, which solves both the distance and the timing problem at once. Rule of thumb. A slightly more expensive hotel near the port often buys back hours of stress-free time. The same logic applies after your cruise ends, since a hotel close to the port lets you disembark, drop your bags, and start exploring instead of sitting in a rideshare during your last precious hours of the trip. Number 2. Waiting until the last minute to disembark in ports. Here is what quietly shrinks your time on land. If you wait until the announced final call to leave the ship, you have already lost the calmest, fastest window to get off. A group of friends from California waited until they heard their zone called for disembarkation at their first port, and by the time they walked off, the gangway line stretched back through most of the atrium. The reason this happens is that most passengers wait for the exact same announcement, creating a bottleneck of hundreds of people trying to leave at once. Here is what you do. Check the ship's arrival time the night before, and plan to be ready to disembark within the first 30 minutes after all clear is announced, rather than waiting for your specific zone if that is not required. Here is what you do. If zones are enforced, position yourself near the gangway a few minutes before your zone is likely to be called, so you are moving the instant it opens. Insider move. Early risers who disembark right when the ship clears customs often get an extra 30 to 60 minutes on land compared to those who wait. Rule of thumb: every minute spent waiting on the ship in port is a minute you are not spending on shore. Before the final one, quick reminder: if you found even one of these tips useful so far, tap that like button now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more cruisers who are about to make these same mistakes. And Senior Cruise Secrets posts a new practical guide like this every week. Number 1. Standing in long lines instead of using the cruise app or self-service options. Here is the single biggest time waster on modern cruises, and almost everyone does it at least once: standing in a physical line for something that could have been handled instantly through the ship's app. A traveler from Illinois waited in a 25-minute line at guest services just to check her onboard account balance, something the app could have shown her in about 10 seconds. The reason this keeps happening is habit. Many cruisers simply do not think to check the app first and default to standing in line the way they might at a hotel front desk. Here is what you do before joining any line on the ship, whether it is for dining reservations, drink orders, shore excursion changes, or account questions. Open the app first and see if it can be handled there. Here is what you do. Use self-service kiosks for things like specialty dining bookings or spa appointments when they are available, since these move far faster than waiting for a staff member. Insider move. Many ships now let you order food and drinks directly through the app from anywhere on board, including the pool deck, which completely eliminates the line at the bar. Rule of thumb: if a line is longer than 5 people, check the app first, because there is a very good chance you do not need to be standing there at all. And there you have it, 13 small habits that quietly steal hours from every single cruise, and the good news is that every single one of them is completely avoidable once you know what to look for. Fixing even 3 or 4 of these on your next sailing can hand you back an entire extra day of vacation, time you already paid for and deserve to actually enjoy. None of these fixes require extra money, special status, or years of cruising experience. They simply require knowing where the time actually goes before you step on board. If this kind of practical, no-nonsense cruise advice helps you plan smarter, subscribe to Senior Cruise Secrets so you never miss the next one, and let me know in the comments which of these 13 time wasters you have been guilty of, because I promise you are not the only one. Save this video before your next sailing and share it with anyone in your family who is cruising with you, since a whole group avoiding these mistakes together saves everyone even more time. See you in the next video.